I bought into vision boards and started doing that, and did a cool vision board with the pool cup. I cut out the logo of Pacific Coast Pools, slapped it on the top of a big building, commercial building. I wrote some checks to myself for $500,000. Back then, It was a ton of money to me.
Yes.
I put down I wanted to travel some different places, and this was like 2009, 10. And then it was a surprise to me that Premiere came, but it wasn't, because now literally if you were to walk outside this building, you'd see a different name on the building, but it's the building. It happened. So I just started changing things. Like, I started to believe in myself more. Friends would come around and see these things I was putting on my walls, and they would laugh at me and make fun of me. And I would say, like, they say it works. Like, I have no other choice. Like, either stay in misery or believe in this stuff that they say works.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cooler Radio, the broadcast that hosts conversations that can help you craft your life. Each week, we bring on guests who are influencers, coaches, mentors, leaders, and our conversations explore the art of intentional living in crafting life to your dreams. Drop in with us now and get ready to craft your life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Craft Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuhlhorn. Today, I've got a very, very awesome guest. His name's Jeff Boyer. In a moment, we'll learn what Jeff is beaming in from. But the question that I want to pose you is, are you yearning for a life fueled by purpose? And Jeff's goal is to help men live lives focused on faith, family, and fortune, which is right in line with crafting a life that I like to say is worth dying for. Jeff, I really appreciate you, man. I'm excited for this conversation. I think we're going to go into some levels of depth for our listeners. And why don't you kick us off and let us know where you are beaming in from?
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm happy to be here. I am in Temecula, California, Southern California area, just north of San Diego, for those that don't know.
Yeah. Did you grow up near there? Are you a Southern California kid?
Yeah. I was born in Vegas, and then when I was 10 years old, we moved to Fallbrook, which is northern San Diego County, and Temecula borders that town. So pretty much this area most of my life, yeah.
Yeah. What was childhood like for you?
Childhood growing up, I was in Las Vegas, out in the outskirts. It was awesome, out in the desert. Like, a big part of who I am now is because of that, because just got to adventure around and create what I wanted out in the desert. And we had it was a good childhood. And then when I was 7, I had the thing that really shifted a lot for us, get going really deep right off the bat. My dad is a pool builder with his dad in Las Vegas, and we had a swimming pool in our backyard, and I had a little sister named Emily, who was a year and a half old. She tragically drowned in our pool one summer in 1984. So that was a big moment for our family to have huge things shift for us. We moved to California, back kind of close to where my parents were from, get back closer to family a couple of years after that. And so then my journey after that just, it's been since then just trying to, I don't know, that's a big part of my past and a lot of the reason why I do what I do today. So
that's really significant. Did your family move? Like, was it an escape from trauma, or was it just needing to shift? And I don't know. Well, I can't even imagine trying to process that.
Yeah, it was. My mom is a faith, person. She believes in God, and my dad, he didn't. And, so they both took it much differently. My mom, it was really, really hard on her, like it wasn't easy just because she's faithful, but it was tough. Like I had a little brother born in 1986 that came in place kind of her, and right after that, my parents just couldn't stand being in that house anymore. We walked by her room every day, and just, it was empty and sad. So we left, and more just to start over. My mom hated Las Vegas. She's from California, where with a green thumb. She grew up with her dad planting lots of cool gardens in Las Vegas. They died all the time, so she was over it.
Yeah.
But it was more just a restart. And we moved from this great house with a big pool and all this. I was in a private school. I moved to Fallbrook. I ended up in a bilingual class in a public school. They spoke Spanish, and I didn't know Spanish, and I never really had been around people from Mexico, so it was like a culture shock. And I got chased around the school, like bullied and stuff. It was like, and I was just still kind of stuck in trauma, not really understanding what happened. I didn't go through any kind of specific, modalities to try to like some therapy or anything after that. And so it was just kind of living life, just kind of in a different place. It's tough.
Yeah.
Moving and going through all that. But we lived in a garage, and my dad bought a piece of land and he built a house for us. It took a couple years to build. We lived in trailers after the garage, and then finally moved into the house that he was building, like before it even had drywall up. It was just interesting, like
That's super interesting.
But then, ended up being beautiful. Took him a while to do it, but he was doing all that and going through a lot of grief, trying to move on and build stuff for his family, and do things for us. But it was hard for him. Half of him was gone after that happened. So
yeah. During that transition time, you were 10, 12-ish?
About 10.
Yeah, pretty formative years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you're in Southern California. Your dad's a pool builder. Is that how you got into building pools?
Yeah. My dad, he kept doing it. He used to, do it higher level in California. Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he came to California, it was just small. He did all the work himself. He was hands-on. And so he would bring me out in the summers and force me to work with him and go on the chain. I felt like I was on the chain gang. He would throw a pick out of the truck and a little shovel and say, dig this trench 100 feet through really hard ground.
Yes.
I learned a lot about hard work. I hated it, but I learned a lot of that from him. So yeah, he was a good example of hard work for me.
Yeah.
And I did that with him. And then later on in my mid to late 20s is when I ended up really working for him, and then deciding to go and start my own business after a few years of working for him. And just was hard. I couldn't work with him full time. It was tough on me. He's a tough guy to work with. And so 2005, I started my own business. Sorry. So
copy that.
Yeah.
And since 2005 and now, you've had a few businesses. What's been the journey like? And I guess for the listeners, I didn't put this in our intro, but you build pools.
Yeah.
And you also have a retreat, and it's Build. And I would definitely want to talk about that. So
sure.
Just kind of setting little teasers for listeners. But I guess take us through some of the journey and put a little summary on it. But 2005 to almost 2025, right? So
yeah,
last 20 years. What's been the journey like?
It's been crazy. Like anybody, I guess, that you've owned a business for close to 20 years, it's a heck of a journey, no matter whatever path you take in it. But for me, I started my business the same way my dad was doing it. I had my own truck, and I had a guy helping me, and I'd go out and do all the work myself. So I was hands-on, and got married a little bit before I did, in 2002, I got married, and we had our first child in 2004. And so we were building our family, and just one after the other, ended up having 4 kids up till 2011, and working on the business and going through the recession, which was horrible. And I just grinded, I just did whatever I could from 2005 to about 2011. I got to a point though where I was just kind of done. We had to short sell our house. I would go up and down in income. I'd have some money when I'd sell a job, and pleading and begging God to like send me a lead, because I just needed one lead, try to go sell a pool.
Yeah.
I'd get that one lead and I would treat it like gold, man. I would do everything for those people to get the job. And I ended up getting most of those when I'd go. It was a struggle, man. I'd go work all day, go out at night and try to sell pools, and then try to come home and deal with my wife and little babies. And, all you that are doing that now or have done it, that's a tough path. And I was pretty much over it around 2010. I was thinking about changing careers because I just thought there's no way I'm going to continue this unless I can grow the pool company somehow. But I couldn't see how that could happen. And I thought, you know what, I might take another job. I was going to actually maybe move to Texas and sell medical supplies for a friend's company. So I was going to make 50 grand a year doing that. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to survive, but I was about ready to say yes. And then I found this opportunity online one night. There's a lot that goes behind how I got to that, but I ended up clicking on this website for Premier Pools and Spas. And there was a link on there that said, become a licensee. And I'd heard of the company before, but they weren't around us in this area. And filled out this little form, and then probably one of the hardest days of my life, after like a couple of days after that, I was probably the lowest point. My dad was working for me and my brother. We didn't have any money. I sold a job too short. I was just in the worst position. And then these guys called me and said, hey, the owner of this place wants to fly down to San Diego to meet you and talk to you about this opportunity with Premier Pools. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't happen. It sounds too good to be true. Like I sent you guys a note online and the next thing you know, you're actually calling me, which is and telling me the guy wants to fly from Sacramento to meet me. And I'm no one, why would you want to do that? And ended up meeting the guy in San Diego. They had a Premier Pools office there, another guy that had been running one there. And he told me all these things that they were going to help me do. More than anything, just help me get some structure and give me like a blueprint that I could follow to grow my business to become something great. And I was like, sounded too good to be true, but I ended up driving up to Sacramento to see them, and I was blown away. Sure. At the operation, just employees that had been there for almost 20 years that never left, and just happy customers. I mean, tons of employees, and they built all their pools in-house. Just mega impressive. I was blown away, and they basically were saying, hey, if you want to do this, let's do it. And so I signed a contract the day I went out there and met them and changed my company name from Pacific Coast Pools to Premier Pools, and off I went in 2011. And since then, it's been just a life-changing thing. Very hard to do, but grew a business from $500,000 a year before I was in Premier to during COVID, we were doing $35 million a year out of our business here in Southern California. And that's in a small region. It's not San Diego, Orange County, or LA. We'll see part of Riverside County. And so it's not a well-known area. And we've been doing great. We have office here. We've got great employees. I've gone through so much personal development growth through that because I didn't know. I'm totally rambling on and on. I hope this is okay.
It's great, dude. This is
I'm
amazing.
just going on with the story. So, but this journey has been tough. When you're trying to grow a business from when you don't know how to do anything really, but I was pretty good with money, but I just didn't know. I don't know anything about business when it really comes down to it, like human resources, like finance, to really track things properly, how to treat customers, customer service, warranty. Like there's just so many parts of running a business that are overwhelming. And I learned quickly I couldn't do all this on my own. So I started hiring people, like my first person, I hired someone to come and work in the office, and then I'd hired a project manager, and then I actually had my dad doing that. And, crazy story with that. My dad and we couldn't work together after a couple of years of trying that. And I had to, in a way, fire him and try to keep my family together.
Sure.
And that was crazy and hard. But that shift was really important for my business because my dad was kind of holding us back with his old school mentality.
Yeah.
And we had to move it forward. And so I had to let him go, brought in different people, and just, kept going, hiring more, sales team. We'd had 10 salesmen here selling pools. Now we've got 6, and, it's just been crazy. And
this is amazing, dude. So I want to hear more about the pivot. So you went up to Sacramento, you signed this contract to become a franchisee of these premier pools.
Mm-hmm.
You drive back down, like, what's the conversation with the team? What happens the next day?
Well, the team was me and my brother. And my dad, not quite yet, but my brother was doing nothing at the time. And so basically I just said, hey, I got to go file this DBA with the county recorder.
Yeah.
And I'm Premier Pools and Spas. I had these brochures, and then they gave me this value proposition kind of sales pitch to learn. And I just started implementing. They actually had a CRM online software to use, and I jumped into that. I started tracking things that I never tracked. I started having more diligence in setting expectations with customers so that since I wasn't going to be involved with every single one of them, how could I keep the expectations that the customers have on track so that when other people are out instead of me on jobs, it still goes smooth.
Yeah.
That was a very tough transition.
Dude, I want to break this down a little bit more too, because just for clarity, you get this franchise. So immediately out of the gate, you get some sales tools and some sales coaching.
Yep.
And I'm imagining that, it was a big pivot moment, but it wasn't overnight. All of a sudden you're doing multi-millions. A little bit of a build out and a grind. But what I'm hearing here is clarity on a values proposition and some sales process.
Yeah.
Go out and transact stuff.
Yeah.
In this franchise, you're still putting together the work and delivery of this. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah. So now you're structuring the tracking component. Really curious on the tracking. So I understand the CRM is going to offer some of that. What did you shift internally that had you all of a sudden paying attention to different metrics? Was that something you always had in mind, or all of a sudden you had an accountability, or what was it?
Good question. So no, I wouldn't say I was that good at it before, because I didn't feel I needed to, because I was doing all the work myself and I was making money because I wasn't paying anybody else. But what shifted the most was I had salespeople, and we paid them a 5.5% commission, and it was based on profitability of the job. And so I didn't want to be lazy in that and just pay 5.5% regardless of how the job performs. And that would cheapen the experience for everyone. Like, the salespeople wouldn't learn anything because we would just be paying them. If they were making big mistakes, they would never know. And then our company wouldn't know either, because then we wouldn't be able to see where we're making errors on different phases of construction. So when we had that accountability with paying the salespeople what they should be paid based on profitability of the job, then that made it easy for me to shift. It was a hard thing to track because nobody wants to basically count every penny on every job.
Yeah.
But we had to, and that saved my business. That's how I really grew my business, because we knew where we were off. We don't pay bills unless we, get approved from the subcontractor and us. Right. It's not just like send it out and pay it regardless of what they send in.
Yeah.
So we're making sure we're estimating things properly, and we're paying pretty close to that. So then we're always within the plus or minus on our profit that we want.
Yeah. Yeah. And just in those words alone. So as a business owner, this is something I can wrestle with at times, but for our listener as well, there's a little bit of structure, kind of how to, because not everybody has a franchise ability. There are lots of them, but there's also lots of not great ones at the same time, right? So that structure can be really important, and we can put that in whether we're a franchisee or not.
Mm-hmm.
But when you state the profit that you want, are you creating that game board, or are you like aiming at a target based on something you've learned in the industry, or some other entity letting you know what's okay to profit?
Sure. Well, my dad was in the business and he had his way of doing it. But what I quickly learned is he wasn't charging enough to run a bigger company. He was charging enough just for him to make it okay. But what I learned from Premier when I got into that was that I had to charge much differently. I had to charge margin. So it was a different way of calculating profit on a job. It made me more expensive than I was, which scared me because I didn't want to go into the market and be the more expensive, because then, before I got into all this, I was always selling on price. I was a small guy. I tried to sell value, which was me really, that I'm there and I know what I'm doing. But the value was still pretty small compared to, a big company that's got all this clouds behind them and, warranty, they're going to be just all these things they can offer a customer that I couldn't. And so a lot of it was like, well, these guys are, $50,000. Can you beat it? And that would happen all the time to me. And I would have to say, yes, sure. But then as I got into this other avenue, there's some of that still there, but not the same, because we taught our customers what was different about us, so that they didn't, majority of them didn't come up with those questions. Like they didn't say, give me the best price. They said, hey, you're the one to do business with, and I can't risk going with the small guy because I might lose out on all these things that you're offering. And so the price became less of a problem for me to deal with.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But the biggest thing though, for any business, regardless of a franchise or not, that I've learned, it was hard for me to see that before I got into this, because, and I can see why a lot of small businesses struggle, because it's hard to know like what's the right thing to do, right? Because you got 8,000 different options coming at you. Do this, do this, do this.
Totally.
And you get overwhelmed and you go, well, which one's the right one? And I think in the end, when I break it down very simply, it was just track. I mean, one is you got to sell. So you got to sell. If you don't sell, you got nothing. And so if you're a good, salesperson, you got to go out and do it. And then you got to build a team behind you so that you can keep selling. And then you got to track your money. So you got to track it. You got to know numbers, find out from your industry. I'm sure you can totally find out on Facebook, on these different industry forums. They're sharing things all the time, and track and learn how to do that, because that'll save you. And then make sure you're building some value propositions into what you sell, so that way you can build some margin in there and not be starving after a job's done. You're not like starving for the next one. So
yes. Yeah. Good insights, man. So for the owner operator, hopefully you were taking some notes, because that is the game right there. Super good. I want to pivot our convo a little bit, but it's very much in line, because what we're talking about is a journey of transformation. And I would assume that you would agree with the statement that the version that is here today of Jeff Boyer is not the version that was here 10 years ago.
I agree with.
And when did the intentionality come along in your life as far as creating the man that you wanted to become?
Yeah, I think I had a huge shift when I was 21 in my life. I was kind of on the wrong track, partying a bit and just kind of lost focus. I was going to college, but just wasn't going on the path that I planned for myself. And so I am a Christian, and I just had an epiphany moment where I basically dropped my past life and kind of had this born again experience, let's say, like where I just became a new person when I was 21. And that kind of that was a huge shift for me to move into like this foundation of faith. And I saw that I felt and God was real to me back then. Like it was this real experience that I couldn't deny. And so that's kind of been like a foundational thing for me throughout my career. I've lost touch with it at times. It's been hard to understand, as I've moved through growing this business and having a family. I've had to definitely dive into some different parts of myself that I didn't know I needed to. So,
Really?
um, you can do a lot with sheer grit and like just having desire, but also you got to know where you're going, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, you're just pushing yourself around all the time. It's going to wear you out, and you're just never going to feel like you get ahead. And so for me, some things that changed for me, I started just getting frustrated with not making money and just being super nervous and stressed all the time. I wouldn't sleep at night. This is in the 2007, 8, 9, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just horrible, man. Like I just was overweight, eating fast food and crap all the time just because I was living a life of just survival.
Well,
Get your butt out and work and then barely sleep at night, worrying about how you're going to pay for things. And it was taxing on me mentally and my marriage. That's all I was absorbed with. And so I had some my mom is really good at, offering up books and things that she read to help her and some other friends. And I just started reading some books that were really helpful to me to start to think differently, to change the words in my brain from worry and stress and negative things to positive. And I bought into vision boards and started doing that. And did a cool vision board with the pool cup, I cut out the logo of Pacific Coast Pools, slapped it on the top of a big building, commercial building. I wrote some checks to myself for $500,000. Back then, It was a ton of money to me.
Yes.
I put down I wanted to travel some different places, and this was like 2009, 10. And then it was a surprise to me that Premiere came, but it wasn't, because now literally if you were to walk outside this building, you'd see a different name on the building, but it's the building. It happened. So I just started changing things. Like I started to believe in myself more. Friends would come around and see these things I was putting on my walls, and they would laugh at me and make fun of me. And I would say, like, they say it works. Like I have no other choice. Like, either stay in misery or believe in this stuff that they say works.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it, and my life started changing. And another big thing that I did, which is it's totally, up to you as a business owner, but in my way, I started giving to my church. There's a 10% tithing law, right? And then in my church, we have this thing called offerings. And so you can give some extra money that goes to the poor or people that are hungry or whatever. And so I just started paying more than the normal thing, what most people would do. And, I was told from a really successful friend, wealthy businessman, and, did well in his family. And he said, this is one of the things that he did. And so I tried that out. And I feel like it was just me being able to have more faith, like part of some of my money, and give to people that are less fortunate as me, even when I didn't have that much. And that seemed like when I started doing that, things started changing for me too. It wasn't just, there was a few different things. It was the vision, knowing where I wanted to go. It was being more positive. It was changing my vocabulary to more positive type stuff.
Yeah.
Possibility, not lack. And then these things started coming to me like gravity. Like I just started attracting new things. Money started coming. It's really fun and different.
Yeah.
And my life changed. Like people that knew me in 2010 that know me now, you come to my house now and you come see the way we're living our life. It's 100% different. It'd be really hard to compare the two. I'm a different man from the ground up. But just I've rebuilt the way I see the world, the way that, I see possibility. And I know, it's critical that we give ourselves a chance as men and women, when we're doing big things. We really if we're out doing big things in the world, we're trying to achieve a lot. Like we really need to take care of ourselves. We really need to stop, take a moment and look at the way we're living our life and see what might be impeding our progress or what's getting in the way. And start to like really think about what we want. Where do we want to go? and be real about it and believe that it's possible. Don't just say, I want a big house, and then just think it'll show up one day, but like, want the big house and put it up on a wall and like, hey, what do I need to do to get this big house? Or what do I need to do to get this in my bank account? Or what do I need to do to have happiness again? Or what do I need to do to find peace in my marriage? You know, like, just be more clear on what you want, and then be open to learning and see what comes. So
beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Is this what you bring forth in your build retreats?
Yes. So the build retreats, they're just this passion of mine. I have this awesome house down in Mexico, and I just, you know, we bought it for us to go down and escape from life here and there and share with our friends. And was down there once, and I just thought, you know what, I need to share this with people that need to get out of their life for a few moments and just have this opportunity to shift in this beautiful place and to talk about these things that we're not talking about. Like, men, you know, I'm specifically focusing on men, but I know it's the same for women in their own way. But as men trying to run businesses and have families, like, we're at the end of our rope most of the time. You know, like, we're trying to do it all, and we never feel good enough. We never feel like we do enough. There's some part of our life where we feel horrible about. It could be the way we're treating our families. It could be the way we treat ourselves, the way our business is being treated, the way, you know, if we're making money or not. It's just so many different parts of our lives that are always feeling in lack. We have shame over it. And so we bring guys together that are trying to achieve good things, big things in their life. You don't have to be trying to take over the world, but just trying to do some good things in your life, and bring us together and be in this environment where there's no judgment and some really good professional coaching and some awesome, you know, scenery. It's just like drop into nature again, slow life down for a few days, talk about, you know, who you are, what you want, what are the things that you're hurting from, what are things that are holding you back, and just, you know, explore those things a little bit. And then when you do that, it opens up another channel, like a new feeling about your life. So when you go back home, you're not the same guy, definitely not the same guy. And you have these new tools and new friends and these new modalities and different things that you can do now to just shift your life incrementally forward and towards things that you want. Doesn't mean it's going to be any easier, but it just is going to make you feel like now, you know, if you've had some struggle or some roadblocks, like, you've got some things that you can use to advance yourself for a time.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm hearing there is it's an opportunity to go get mentally, physically agitated a little bit, kind of disrupt some of the, I mean, I can relate where I just get stuck in, maybe it's a rut, but it could be also just like one pattern of thought.
Yeah.
Right. And by getting with masterminds, by getting with other like-minded individuals that are going somewhere, that kind of structure of thought starts getting agitated, shifted.
Yeah.
And then to come out of it, there is that supportive community. And that is what can help transfer, right? Along with some of these tangible tools that I'm kind of hearing that you'd probably be bringing forth. And so there's real, whether they're strict coping tools or a vision board, you know, tools that help the individuals just kind of proceed forward and get more intentional about life, and have a bit of an accountability community around that.
Yeah, like, since you were talking to me, I thought of a few of the more specific reasons why the retreat is there. You know, for about 7 or 8 years, I've been on this more intense path of developing myself because the business grew more and there was just more stress, more trauma, like business trauma, like going through all these different experiences in business and customers that didn't like us, or, you know, just dealing with so many different things that I'm not inherently built to handle. And so I kept going out and handling. And then my circuit breaker broke. Like, anxiety built, and I just had a breaking moment. Ended up in the hospital for a few days, and just my body snapped. It had enough, and I was in a very sensitive, weird spot. I didn't know what happened or why it happened. But then I started, venturing down a path of trying to figure it out. So I ended up hiring a coach that was versed in this thing called the habit finder system, and started teaching me about some of the habits I had that were hurting me, that I needed to think about and change, and started learning about those things and started changing the way that I was working with, the way I would go to work and my focus at work, and the way I dealt with my family when I was at home and I was always absorbed in my phone trying to handle business. I would never just leave it alone. I just lived business. And my wife, it really hurt our relationship too around that time too. And that was key. So Lane is one of the guys that's actually at the retreat. Then I moved into this guy, Paul, who taught me, he's dad is the one that created the Habit Finder, and Paul had been coaching. He worked with Jack Welch, just like all sorts of great people. And I hired him as a coach, and he taught me a lot of cool things, a lot of similar things that Lane talked about. But the things that he taught about the most was what's next? Like, how do you keep your ideas moving along so you feel like you're actually got traction, and like, don't get lost in all the things that are going on in your life? How can you like just decide and keep things moving along? And so I started doing what he taught me, and I started getting momentum in a lot of areas where I was losing momentum prior to. And then the next level was this guy named Tony, who's been my coach for 2 years, who deals with business trauma. So works with men that run businesses that have been traumatized by their businesses and past other things in the past, where you kind of get paralyzed. There's certain parts of my business that paralyzed me. I didn't want to go to work anymore. There was days where it was really, really hard to get in my truck and drive to work. And I didn't really know why. It was hard. I should have been happy, right? I have multi-million-dollar business, and all the things I ever wanted, I had. Great wife, kids, everything on the outside looked great, but internally I was really suffering and struggling. And he brought me back down to earth, taught me, all these different healing practices that come from breath work, and just kind of going out into nature and taking time for myself to work through some things that I wasn't paying attention to. And so that's still a practice that I'm in now. And but that's what we do at the retreat. Those men are there and they love it. Like, they've done all sorts of different retreats and group things with men over the years, and they told me that they told me after we've done the first one, they're like, this is different than anything we've ever been to. It's amazing. We need to do this more and get more men out to do it. And so we're trying to move on in that direction just because we know how impactful it's been.
Yeah. So, I love it. I think it's so poignant. I think it's so important too, because there is, in my experience, and I've gone through, I don't know what you would call it, different crisis moments. And I don't think it's done by any means, but I'm informed by each one. And through it all, there is a recognition that society and for men in general, and it's the same for women, like any human that's out there needs community and needs some intentionality and just tools to navigate the shifts that are at play. I mean, we're at the forefront of like the AI wave, and that's going to create more shifts, and it's coming fast. And how do we do that as humans that have, hardware from 1,000+ years ago? It goes back to that human connection, I think.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a somatic, like, body connection, because from my experience, I could be so heady at times, and certainly in my 30s, I was just all up here, and to bring this down and connect is big power.
Yeah. No, that's the key. I think that's what I learned. I was all head too. I had a lot of heart, like I'm a good man. Like I get emotional. I can feel life. I've always felt like that, but in business, it was more worry. It was money. Let's, this problem, that problem, let's grow. It was all push, push, push. And it was, the heart was being ignored most of the time. And so that was one of the big shifts that like you just said, I brought the heart into our company. We started caring about our customers more, paying more attention to the people that worked with me. And the ones that didn't have hearts, they moved out. We brought people that did. And our heart, now the businesses run really well with great people here, and I don't have to be here every moment, and I don't deal with all the bad problems that come up anymore because there's not a lot of them. And if there are any, they're pretty easy to handle, and I don't even have to go because they have the hearts to go deal with these people and help them get through the situations. Not like before. It used to be, oh, there's another one. This jerk, is wrong. Another one of these people that doesn't know what they're talking about. And, it became a shift into, hey, like, this is our customer and they're people and they want this dream of a swimming pool in their backyard. And we took it on. And so let's go do what we said we would. And let's handle it. Like, let's treat them like we would want to be treated as far as, that part, getting taken care of and knowing that, they chose the right company and the right people to do business with. And so that shift, it's really been so amazing and opened up so many opportunities for our company. And we have one in Texas now too, because of that. Like, I wouldn't have been able to move into Texas a couple of years ago had I not brought in heart-centered employees that care and take care of things here in California, so that we have the time to go and do the same thing in Texas, and it's being duplicated there in its own way.
Yeah.
With that same type of focus. So
love it, man. So who would you say Build is for?
Build is for guys like you and me, Matt. If you're a man that's running a business, blue collar business, usually a type of business where you're out, having to provide a service to a customer and their residents, or it's not just solely focused on that, but the struggles of trying to do that with the family, wife and kids, and maneuvering through that world of, how to be better in that. So, and just someone that has a desire to be better, like just, you feel like there's something missing in your life. You've got things going, but you just don't feel whole. Like there's just part of you that's asking for something different. And instead of blowing up your world and changing your business and getting a new wife, come to the build land. You come and work through those things with guys that are going through it with you, and enhance the things you have. Make your business better, stronger. Enhance your relationship with your wife. Enhance your relationship with your kids. Enhance your relationship with yourself. Give yourself more tolerance and love. And then push yourself a little bit more in ways you haven't before. Kind of that David Goggins mentality, like do some hard things so that you feel alive,
Love it.
If it's you need to come and be part of us. So
yeah, I know it's on one of my, it's on my list, man. I will be there. You've got one coming up in October?
Yeah, October 17th.
Is it booked
21st. Out? It's half booked.
Cool.
So we can have a few more guys.
Yeah.
We don't want too many people there, but
yeah. And then when's the next one after that for listeners?
We're shooting for February of 25.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. That's the one I'll be at.
Yeah. It'll be
wonderful,
fun.
Man. For those that are listening, want to get in touch with you, learn more about that retreat, where do we find you?
You go to jeff-boyer.com. So jeff-boyer.com. And that's my landing page. You can contact me through that. And
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll include that link and anything else that's pertinent in our show notes. And I would highly encourage anybody listening to get in hold of Jeff. Man, I just gotta acknowledge you. Like your vulnerability and humble presence is awesome. Pure strength.
Thank you.
I really appreciated our conversation, man. And of course, I look forward to our next ones. But we'll put a bow tie on this one for now.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely, Jeff. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Cooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.